Hey, welcome to Honest Reviews. Today we have a very cool blender review for you. We are looking at the Millo Smart Portable Blender. Yes, it is a portable blender and it has lots of fancy features. We are going to test it today, so let's get to it. Let's start with a disclaimer. We were given this blender for our review from Millo, but there are never any strings attached. We are not paid for these reviews. All of the opinions are our own, and we try very hard to make sure that we're finding all the little details here that might matter to you. Okay, so let's start with some specs, and let's get this out of the box. But I wanted to keep it in the box because it was a very cool box. The unboxing experience, I compared it to like if you bought a blender from Apple. That's what it was like. It's very cool. I also like that 75% of this box is recycled paper, and the whole box itself is recyclable with no plastic lamination. So I'm gonna open it up. It's magnetic, but I don't want things to fall out. So I'm gonna do this. So you kind of get some nice thanking you. Now you're on the journey with us. And then we open up, and here's the blender. That's the whole thing. So it's definitely a very, very nice looking box. I also really appreciate over here on this side is a very nicely designed user guide. So you don't have to be like rummaging around. I always appreciate that. So here is the base of the blender. And as I mentioned at the very beginning here, the thing that's really unique about this is it is a portable smart blender. So you do not have to plug this in to use it. You charge the base with USB-C, which is right here. And there is a USB-C charger included, which I will show you. Voila. There you go. USB-C charger included. And 3 adapters, which, portable blender. Who is going to need a portable blender? Perhaps travelers who really want to make sure they can blend things as they travel. And so all of these adapters are both very good because there's a more international audience for this. And then also if this is something you might be traveling with. So there's the base. Here is the cup. So you can see this is not huge. This is a 500 milliliter cup. So it's definitely more of like I'm making a smoothie for myself kind of blender rather than a Vitamix, which is very large and you're making smoothies for a family of 6, that kind of thing. So that's the cup. It comes with this lid, which there's a little cap, and that's the drinking lid that just goes on there. And then the very last but not least is that. This is the smart lid. So you open this up. And there are the blades. And that's it. Goes on there. So, yes, how is this a blender? It is magnetic. All right, before we move on, let's talk price. The entire blender that I just showed you is 299 euros or about 346 US dollars based on the conversion of the day. Now, that's expensive. A Vitamix, a pretty standard good model of a Vitamix, around 450 US, depending on the model, where you buy it, etc. and so on. So this is definitely in that high range of blenders. We have tested other blenders before. Make sure you check out our Smart Buy comparison where we tested a Vitamix versus like the cheapest blender we could get, really. So this definitely in that mix would have been on the high end. So this is not a cheap blender, but it's also different than anything I've ever seen. So it's kind of hard to compare it. There is a brushless motor inside, 500 watts. It has Bluetooth. So there's an app that you can use to check the battery and to actually control it. And then that app also will apparently give you access to updates, like firmware updates and stuff that you can install through there. So it's like apparently going to continue to improve through these updates. It takes about 2 hours and 20 minutes to fully charge this. And then you get 10 to 15 smoothies on the charge. You can use it plugged in with this. So if you don't care about this being completely wireless, you can leave it plugged in and use it, but it has to have at least 20% battery charge. So if you were to if the battery were to completely die, you'd have to charge it up for about 10, 15 minutes for it to actually work. It comes with a 2-year warranty. The cup itself is made out of BPA-free Tritan plastic, which is pretty standard, but it's very robust. Everything here feels incredibly well made. The actual way this works is with that magnetic air drive motor is what it's called. So it is magnetic and it's spinning in there. And it has a quiet mode. There are different modes that you can use this in, and one of them is a quiet mode for smoothies, which that would be nice because I find my Vitamix to be incredibly loud. So on the bottom here, you can see the one button is this power button. So you hold that down and it takes a while, but it turns on. You hear a sound and all of those lights, and that's how you know it's on. And if I go like this, you can see that this is all touch sensitive, and that is how you can control this blender without an app. You can use the app and press the different modes on there, but if I press on here, that's how I'm actually going to control the blender. So once you put the cup on, you can see it's magnetic. Then I go like this and you have different lights there. So these lights on the right-hand side are the manual controls all the way up. And then these lights here are smoothie, pulse, and then quiet smoothie mode. So you can either pick one of these modes or just do it manually like that. Which is so fascinating. I haven't ever seen a blender or really anything that uses just some simple lights that show up on this touch screen to control it. So it definitely has that sort of delight factor to it that it's fun. It's fun to play with it. It's fun to see the lights happen. But how does it blend? That's what we're going to find out now. All right, so the first thing we like to test is ice cubes. You can see there's a max line here. So I'm going to fill this up with some ice cubes and we'll see how that does. Based on the documentation on the website, the pulse mode, it says, is meant for ice cubes. So that's what we're going to try first. Okay, so we'll put that on. Make sure it's on all the way. Okay, so just the pulse mode itself, the ice cubes got stuck up there. So now I'm going to try just doing the manual mode on this side. No good there. Try pulse again. All right. It did not do very well. There's definitely full ice cubes there at the top, as you can see. And then the rest of the ice is pretty standard. When we tested the Vitamix, it made a snow type situation. So this is pretty unimpressive when it comes to just crushing ice. Now let's try a smoothie. All right, so for the smoothie one, I'm going to use the app, which you can just download from any app store, and I'll show you here. This is what it looks like on my phone, just telling me to put the cup on the blender. Connecting it to the blender itself was incredibly easy. You just turn on the base and then it finds it. So there wasn't anything too tricky. It also tells you the battery up in the top right, which we will talk about more in a minute, but that is helpful. Put some kale in, which is our test of choice because it's very hard to blend up kale. And then I'll put some strawberries, frozen and whole. And then almond milk. So in our other blender battle, this was the very same that we put in. I'm going to do a bunch of liquid. Now, one thing I will point out that I can see being a problem is that there is this little silicone ring that goes here. And this is what prevents any leaking. So if you put this on, but it's flipped vertically instead of horizontally, you're probably going to get quite a bit of leaking. So you do want to make sure that this ring is situated properly along here where the 3 lines are upright. All right, we're going to put the lid on. Attach it. And now our app here knows that it's on there. So we've got this manual option. But I am going to put it on Smoothie. And so the program for Smoothie is meant to alternate between pulse and then just like steady in order to get everything. And I think it's supposed to run for a minute. So we're going to give that a full minute. We're going to run this. And if you really like stats and graphs, it gives you a graph of what happened. So I can tell right away that like the ratio that I used kale to strawberry in this smoothie is different from our other test. But, you know, you can just kind of see right away that this had a very similar result where you can see those little flecks of the kale like in there. That was a very similar result to like the Ninja mid-range blender as well, whereas the Vitamix made like a completely smooth speckless result. So I mean, you wouldn't expect this to do as well as Vitamix because the motor is not nearly as powerful. It definitely, there's nothing left in there. And that just sprayed all over everything here, opening that up. So what I think happened, I could see lots of liquid had gotten stuck here. And then as soon as I opened it, it all kind of sprayed out. So there's our result.
Yeah, just pour it on the desk.
I'm just going to pour that on the desk.
Should I get a glass?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just pour this into a glass, take a look at it. And the spoon test here. Definitely can see all the little like specks of kale in there, but otherwise very smooth. Tastes like a smoothie. All right, so let's talk about this a bit more. In terms of cleanup, this cup can go in the dishwasher. These lids can go in the dishwasher. But the smart lid, which is this guy, cannot go in the dishwasher. And neither can the base. So these are things that need to be hand washed. And then again, with that little silicone ring, when you're washing it, you're meant to take that off to make sure you get anything that's underneath it, and then make sure it goes back on properly. A couple notes. One thing about charging this, I found that when I plugged it in and it was turned off, there was no charged light. There wasn't anything to let me know that it was actually charging. I had to actually turn it on, and then you see a charged light, and that shows you that it's charging, which was like, that's a small thing, but kind of a, you plug it in, you want to know that it's charging. In order to determine the charge, you can press the button on the bottom, and the number of like strongly lit up dots are helping you know the relative charge. But it's not going to tell you like it's at 30%. You just kind of have an estimation based on how many dots are there. And then the app will tell you exactly how much battery charge there is. So, I think the charging aspect of this is not seamless. But that's kind of being nitpicky. So overall impressions, it definitely did a decent job of that smoothie. There weren't any big chunks of the strawberries left. The kale, you don't really notice it when you drink it. It makes a good smoothie. In terms of it being portable, that's an important thing. This base is like over 4 pounds just for this guy. It is heavy, heavier than it looks, because this has, the motor in there and such. So is this something that you're going to want to like throw in your backpack and take with you to go make a smoothie on the run? No, I don't think that's necessarily what you want to do. Would you take it camping or something? Yeah, probably. But then again, you're getting, 10 to 15 smoothies out of one charge. You might need to charge it again. So like portable is a very personal term in terms of what you think is portable. I'm very curious as to who this is meant to be for. I can see that if you're someone who really doesn't like cords on your countertop, in your kitchen, and, making a daily smoothie is something that is really a big part of your day, it's quite a delightful experience to make a smoothie. I think all the lights and stuff are just fun. And it did a good job of just having a smoothie mode, made the smoothie, you rinse it out, and you're good to go. In terms of portable, that I think is a bit more of a stretch, just in terms of like the weight, all the stuff you need to take with you. But it is a blender that works without cords through a magnetic motor, and that just is cool. And so it gets points for cool factor. Is it something that most people are going to want to have in their kitchen? Probably not. But is it innovative? Definitely. There are a few weak points that I'm going to point out. If you may have noticed when I was doing the test, as soon as I opened the lid, I had smoothie kind of spray all over the place. I'm not sure if that's something that will happen every time, but you might want to keep an eye on that, just because of how the smoothies seem to get stuck in there. Let's try that again. So it was like this. So I think it was the pressure of the blending combined with that getting in there. But it's definitely, I've now got this dripping thing that I'm holding. So it definitely loses a few points in terms of just spraying stuff all over the place. I'll also point out on the base here, this is like, hasn't even really been used. I think this is just from being in the box. But this material on the bottom here is kind of like a rubber. And you can see that there's scuffs around the edge here. The cardboard that's inside the box is black. So it really easily picked up the scuffs, and then getting them off, I can kind of rub it off, but you can see how it kind of stuck on there. So I could see that material kind of picking up dirt very easily. And so that being something that you kind of need to like do a little bit of extra work to clean, because it's grippy rubber to try to keep it like from moving. Even when it was just doing the ice and stuff, the base was moving. So that's why it's rubber. But in terms of keeping it clean, that's a bit of a negative point. And then also the charging, it not having a light when you plug it in. I don't like that. I like to plug something in and know right away whether or not it's charging properly. And one final important safety note is that this is not meant for any hot liquids. A Vitamix, you can blend all the way up to like making a soup. You can make it get hot. But this, especially with the smaller one, and Vitamix also with the smaller containers, not meant for hot liquids. All right, so that is our test and our review of the Millo Smart Portable Blender. Very innovative. Loved all of the different ways that they're like trying out how to control a blender and what a blender could be. Is it the most, universally appealing blender in the world? Maybe not. Most people, I don't think, would want to spend over $300 on a blender that just does some smoothies because it doesn't have wires. But I think some people will, and those people will probably find this to be pretty delightful to use, and that gets points for me always. Thank you so much for watching this review. Make sure to check out our other blender Smart Buy comparison, where we compared 3 different blenders. It helps to really get a sense of like what can blenders do and what are the things to be looking for at different price points. That will be linked in the description, along with links to the blender itself and some details as well if you like to read that stuff. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment to let me know if this is something that interests you or where you think you might use a portable blender, because I'm definitely curious if maybe I'm just not the right market for this and other people think a portable blender is exactly what they've been looking for. And subscribe if you want to see more reviews. We'll see you in the next video.